Orange is the New Black, Season 3, Episode 9. This one is primarily a comedy episode, and it feels like we haven't really gotten one of those for a while. I don't think since Season 1. But it is some really funny stuff, so I'm glad we got it now. And the primary story here is after everyone's been lying about being Jewish to get kosher meals for a while, they finally bring a rabbi in who vets them all. And they all are various degrees of pathetic in trying to convince him that they really are Jewish. And the only one that succeeds is the former nun, because if you actually believe in one religion, you can kind of fake them all, apparently. At least that's her excuse, and I kind of believe it. And this plays out opposite Norma's forming what's basically a cult, and they're trying to become a legit religion, which kind of speaks to me because I actually follow a religion of my own design, and no one else does it, and I haven't tried to convince anyone else to follow it. It's just something that works for me, and it has not hurt a single person. So, how many belief systems can you say that about? For those curious, it mostly revolves around God being a little boy playing with a train set, and sometimes he likes to crash it. Now, we have the flashback of Leanne, and it's another quite wonderfully unexpected thing where she was an Amish person who got into drugs on the pilgrimage they all take in their teens, like to the modern world. At least that's what I've heard. I will confess right now, my knowledge of the culture pretty much begins and ends with my having seen Witness, which this very episode points out is apparently full of inaccuracies. So I can't speak at all as to how accurate this portrait of them is, but it's understandable enough, and it really helps us know her better, which all the best of these have done. And like until now, she's basically just been like starting out as Pensatucky's lackey, and then once Pensatucky decides to try being a nicer person, with much more success than Healy, I might add, she kind of tries to become the bully on her own, but now she's stuck in this whole cult thing. So, being a former Amish, that will probably uh, really get have something to do with where she goes from here now that Norma's onto her and has pretty much kicked her out. But they haven't really established any rules, so she might be back. We don't know. Um, Also, a really funny thing that I probably should have brought up before now, but now's as good a time as any. We, for the past few episodes, have had Suzanne writing her own apparently extremely erotic story, which is something like Doctor Who crossed with 50 Shades of Grey, and the other prisoners all are completely hooked on it, even though she is really just writing any crazy crap that comes into her head, and she's mystified at why it's popular. And as a writer myself, with a book in publication as we speak, this is a lot of fun to watch because you have this experience of people just constantly bugging you about what's coming next. I know like writers like J.K. Rowling and George R. R. Martin have to deal with this constantly, and God willing, I will too. But it can become a nuisance, and we definitely get a feel for that here. But for the time being, this is pretty much just a comic relief subplot, and it works very well in that. Oh, also, we have Red constantly insisting that she is not behind the crappy prepackaged meals. And Kay Mulgrew doesn't get to do comedy very often, but she does a pretty good job here, and it blends in nicely with her character development that she finally got the kitchen back, but now she has no control over it still. Um, uh, One more thing is that we get more of Sophia's son, who is still a crappy actor. So this whole thing about him going to the dark side doesn't quite land because I just don't care about him at all. but it's still worth mentioning because it's probably leading somewhere too. And I will see where that goes next time.